Alrighty, hello every folks, and good morning. So I wanted to talk about yet another aspect of Unicorn Overlord that I just find incredibly exciting at this point. So, for anyone that's been on the channel for any length of time, you know what? Y'all have probably seen that I'm pretty darn excited about challenge runs. And a lot of times those challenge runs come down to getting past situations in really nitty gritty ways, just finding little things to potentially kind of tip the scales, as it were. And it feels like so much of this game is just designed around that. Like these ideas that it seems like the AI actually seems to some degree prepare for your formations when it's sending out reinforcements. I don't know if this is actually a thing or it's just a chance thing that happened like 7 or 8 times in a row, but every time that these guys over here are sending more soldiers out to go deal with this defense squad, they are aiming for a different tile, apparently, in their formation. And every time that I move this back cavalry guy around to take advantage of their momentum bonus to allow them to clear through their entire squad there, it happens to be a different tile. Again, could just be random chance, but it's this little kind of stuff like this that makes challenge runs incredibly satisfying, like just finding out ways to use all these little niche mechanics and things. And in this particular case, I figured, you know what, since we already were doing the speed running thing and whatever else, I wanted to try some challenge runs. Specifically, I wanted to try every weapon type that we have access to so far and see just kind of how that experience goes. See how exactly it goes where like right here, I'm trying to do spear only just to see if strictly spear units are able to get through the demo fine enough, and so far it has been mechanically dense enough that it's actually been perfectly fine. Situations where, okay, we have cases like these guys over here potentially running out of items on account of being somewhat slow, but that's potentially not a problem, because this was thought of ahead of time, and the first aid, or not the first aid, but the what is it? The life aid on these soldiers here, their CPR skill, gets somebody up from the dead, which means that in their particular situation, they're oftentimes able to accomplish revives in situations where they can't otherwise heal. We've got cases where oftentimes these guys will run out of stamina, but being able to abuse stuff like Wild Rush to essentially have them hold choke points to build up Valor points, to then be able to use Wild Rush to continue moving despite being out of stamina. It's incredibly satisfying. Granted, there are some cases where forces will still be kind of force deployed on you, which is, in this case, I'm just kind of allowing them for assists and things. But just seeing these little interactions and seeing cases like, for example, with barricades, right? Whenever you set them up, you're setting them up relative to where you are, and so you can set up situations where you are specifically going and redirecting units over towards you. Like, let's say that we're about to go for a choke point. If you set those barricades up at an angle, you can use them as a bouncing pad to go launch somebody towards you. Also, I love how there's no noises from my phone, and then the second that I start recording, it's just going off with notifications. Just go ahead and silence that real quick. Anyway, so yeah, you can use these barricades and stuff to bounce units over where you need them to be. Hell, you know what? For that matter, one piece of tech that I don't think I have any barricades left here to show this off. No, I just have a manlet kit left. Okay, so one interesting bit of tech to those barricades also, if you just go and technically achieve win, like use something like like an empowering draught. I've been told to pronounce it draft like a sensible human being, but no, I'm good. Anyway, so in that particular situation, let's say that you did create the situation where like you can potentially just technically get a win, but you don't have the stamina to be able to successfully pull off an actual victory there. You can very easily just set up a situation where you take your technical win, throw in a barricade right in front of that unit, launch them somewhere else, throw another barricade behind that, and potentially eliminate an entire unit using items instead of stamina, or using items instead of health, or let's say using in that soldier or knight's case, using stamina instead of items. This interesting economy of swapping around different renewables or somewhat renewables or completely non-renewable things for different situations is fascinating. I can imagine challenge running this thing is going to be absolute gold. So very excited for that one. Like, the implications of all this stuff are really fun. Just very fun to think about. Okay, so let's see. Let's go over a few other things that were discovered there. So I meant to make this its whole other video. In fact, as far as that video goes, I ended up scrapping it because the audio ended up sounding a little bit funky. But in terms of traps and things, especially for challenge runs, even the traps are surprisingly thought out. I would have thought that when it came to the traps, that they maybe would have been something along the lines of just, the bomb will go and damage whoever you initially, whoever initially stands on it, right? So I was going and I was testing out mines and such. And when I was testing out those mines, it seemed like, it was just that main unit getting damaged. And then there were a bunch that were stacked on top of another. And when they were stacked on top of another, they actually did end up all getting hit by the same thing multiple times. And in fact, in one case, I was able to go and twist it around to go and manage to use a mine on a stationary enemy, courtesy of one of these stacking things, because you can set them so close to an enemy unit that it actually will trigger onto a leader squad. So you essentially use a combination of that along with a bomb to just break through a potential strong point. It can be really something. There's a lot of really neat potential tech there, again, for challenge runs and things. So that's got me really excited. So we'll see how all of that ends up playing out in the long run. But yeah, it's just good stuff to see. I know obviously not everyone's going to be into challenge runs and things, and really the idea is less of a showing off kind of thing and more of a, I wonder if we restrict ourselves to this one stupid thing over here, if we can just accomplish something incredibly dumb. Like right here, if we wanted to use only spears, like originally this was just going to be spear infantry, and then I saw the tech for that Wild Rush move, where you could run out of stamina, use Wild Rush to then follow up and attack anyway, potentially breaking a kind of a stationary location, getting a few kills off on their lobies, and then following that up with an immediate attack despite having no stamina to actually conduct the attack in the first place. That is just the little mechanical good stuff that I love to play around with. So there we go. We'll just go ahead and break through this one. Obviously nothing too intense in this situation, but it is what it is. We'll see if those magic assists end up actually doing decent enough here. It's something. Probably if we put up a defensive, it'll be enough to make sure that we don't take any scratch whatsoever. That 3 isn't much, but it's something. Actually, I don't think empowering is going to be enough to carve them through here, but it'll be fine. And so it's been interesting. I mentioned the tech on the different unit types and whatnot. So you might think that these guys would have absolutely no means to go deal with spears and such. And originally I was thinking that that's probably something that we'd run into. So I was testing it around, and sure enough, you have your 100% accuracy spear that's available right from the first shop that you run into. Oh, actually, that just became a lot more difficult, didn't it? So yeah, the very first shop that you run into, you'll have your spear there that gives you perfect accuracy, or unwavering spear here. So that allows you to actually go hit stuff like rogues. So that okay, random interruption there. But for example, let's say we wanted to go sort out this situation right here. We've got an issue where we no longer have our casting support to be able to go break through this guy's defenses in a traditional manner. However, we can potentially break down his grunts to give us a few more options and use this Wild Rush ability to then potentially go run down a few different locations. So we want to be able to get rid of the range support to free up our other squad up there to come down to assist. And these corn ashes, I would have thought would be something that would have potentially been, a bit more useless or something like that. I would have thought that it was going to be like just a reset move, right? And sure enough, it's actually been really interesting in terms of its actual strategic usefulness here, in terms of blazing through certain fights. In terms of getting past, like, let's say, these fights right here, allowing us to potentially use 2 double charges to free up our squad up here, allowing them to actually get into the fight to allow us to have multiple different squads to go deal with this guy over here, right? Or to potentially buy us more time in these situations where we simply wouldn't have had enough time on account of using so many heavy units, that we are able to still use their arrow protection, but we're still able to complete the fight on time just on account of having those items there. Obviously, in that situation, it is more of a challenge run only kind of situation, but still, like, it's just very interesting to see, So I love to see that kinds of stuff. It just feels really good for challenge runs to employ stuff like this. Actually, come to think of it, we probably can go ahead and do something along those lines. Just have them ram those things from both sides. It's just funny. Just break him with your face. just, just have friggin' Ed with his friggin' Ed, and Eddie C, and just like, I'm a shovel, I'm a shovel, I'm a shovel. Oh man, nobody born in the last century knows what the hell I'm talking about. Anyway, so back to the fight at hand here. So anyways, what I'm trying to get across here, obviously, is that this stuff is super freaking satisfying to pull off. Maybe there wasn't a whole lot of reason to spend so many resources to go free up that squad up there. They were doing just fine. Realistically, this squad up here hits way harder, and those 3 wild rushes probably could have just broken through that fortress all the same. But challenge runs are specifically and directly not about playing optimally. The whole point is that you play so suboptimally that you discover new mechanics. And that stuff is the kinds of stuff that I'm in this genre for. It's the kind of situations where, yeah, you know what, by doing a friggin' fist punch only run of something like Knight of Lotus, you discover new things about being unarmored. Or if you discover, let's say, if something like this, normally you'd use a wild rush to go cleave through an area, but using it to bypass stamina restrictions is just really satisfying. It's like right there we only did a 3, but we still got ourselves into the fight to potentially do some damage here. Actually, come to think of it, I wonder if we can reorganize some of these guys in a more interesting manner. Like, technically, if we move you up here, will that change anything? It seems to do about the same. Some of these guys will have kind of different properties in different situations. Because really we want to break through that back spearman. That very slightly improved our situation here. We're barely getting anything through here. I'm almost kind of considering using these other items, but we only have 2 left, so there's that. We did a slight amount to that spearman. It seems like these shield guys are not going to be doing very much for us, but that's fine. Go ahead and skip it, and we'll see if we'll approach better in the next one. We actually did manage to get some scratch damage off on their leader, and that's an interesting outcome that we got right there. Because we actually got ourselves, courtesy of using that charge, we actually got ourselves trapped in the corner. This is really good. This is one of those situations that would be really, really okay, this is a very ogre battle type of situation. Because part of the whole bounciness of the combat that happens creates this loop almost, where you can get yourself stuck against a terrain object if you get yourself at the right angle. Now, you had to lose at just the right angle to get launched in some other direction or something to make that happen in Ogre Battle. Here, with this wild charge thing, you can actually just launch yourself into that position to go get that off instead. So I wonder if we'll actually be able to pull this off 2 damage at a time. Like, yeah, this might seem an extraordinarily scuffed way to play for anyone that's never been into this kind of stuff before, but this is exactly the kind of stuff I'm here for. I want to get through these games with absolute trash. Like, I'm kind of curious what this game's equivalent of the fairy only run will be, because I'm already considering after an initial playthrough, I already want to go finish off the Ogre Battle 64 Griffin only run, and then do Griffin only for Unicorn Overlord. Just throw it in as part of the series, because as far as I'm concerned, it is. Now, can this 2 damage at a time manage to get past their natural healing? Maybe. I guess we'll find out, huh? I mean, we're getting experience every time they're doing this, so eventually we're going to get through. And some of these guys will eventually not be terrible, so, maybe something to consider. Actually, this kind of reminds me of one of the moments in Tactics Ogre PSP. So there's this run that I was doing for years, and technically still attempt every now and then, known as the Stubborn Wretch Challenge. The idea is that it is a solo that you can't use the shop or anything else. It's literally just drops you find on the ground, as well as managing to kind of get through using only skills and everything else. So no retreat, no anything like that. You just slowly carve your way through the thing bit by bit by bit, finding all of your items on the ground, no craftables, no nothing. And that game was particularly good for that format. Because, there was just a lot of weird drops that had no reason to be used outside of that kind of context, right? So, eventually, once all was said and done, I ended up settling on this one section early on, the first fight that you fight in Rhyme. where there's specifically a couple of units well, specifically a fight with one knight in particular. It's a combination of the fact that your kind of assistant that's with you for that fight, your guest, happens to have a healing ability. You can allow your other guest to die, and at the same time, you can actually, one weird interruption later, let's go ahead and continue. So there was one particular point in that challenge run there that I would always stop. Like, granted, it was an Iron Man run. Basically, if you died in that challenge, you started from scratch. Now, would I recommend anyone to play it that way? God, no. It was one of those cases where it just made no sense to recommend that to anyone. But what I will say is that ooh, that doesn't help at all, does it? Why is that hurting them so much? I think it's because of their spear. Which actually, if we move them there, they should be able to do a decent bit without taking any. I wonder why they're prioritizing the leader instead of stabbing for the front. Maybe they're getting guarded completely. I mean, I suppose we could just check. Huh. That would be something. There we go. That's pretty good. But yeah, these kinds of little nitty-gritty, like moving stuff around for very, very slight advantages and stuff like that, this is the kind of stuff that's really fun about challenge runs, because it's stuff that you normally wouldn't need to, to do under normal circumstances. That you wouldn't necessarily need to make sure that people are in the right place at the right time for exactly this kind of dumb situation so you can accomplish one damage at a time or something. And, again, this works for the purpose of a challenge run. That is entirely the point. But not every game can function for something like this. Whether it's through some of their mechanics lacking or just generally not being deep enough or whatever else. Like, I know every time that I've gone and played a Fire Emblem or something like that, eventually I started trying to challenge run the thing. So, for example, the GBA era Fire Emblems were great for that. It was a combination of the general kind of normal gameplay being somewhat on the easier side, but as soon as you got into challenge run type of stuff, you could get way crazier with it. Especially when it came to stuff like the FE8 self-randomizer there, which basically allowed for playing as all kinds of nonsense. Like one of them that I remember doing had your primary knight guy just going and transforming into a frickin' eyeball. He just was an eyeball now. Just don't question it. He is just living the eyeball life. And again, under normal circumstances, that would be terrible, but just playing around that weirdness made it really darn fun. And if the mechanics are there to play around the weirdness, stuff is great. At that point, you're just going and you're learning new stuff about everything that's going on around you. Like, in these situations, realistically, what I kind of want here is if my A squad gets up to 10 using this scuffed nonsense right here, they eventually would be able to get to pick up javelins. If we pick up javelins, then we would be able to reach that spearman back there without too many issues. If we end up doing that, then potentially the rest of the team can fall, because now that's fewer attacks focused in different locations. One way or another, stuff is shifting around in some way. It's just those little move-arounds, In fact, one of the cool things that we can take advantage of right now is the fact that we actually are looking about this completely the wrong way. See, there was a very simple fix to our problem that I completely overlooked. If we simply take all of our units back and we go ahead and kind of withdraw them at the moment, we can actually reform our squad not only into something better, but also potentially through one simple fix, we actually could attack this guy a lot more often. One of those considerations that we wouldn't need to worry about that much under normal circumstances. Now, what I'm thinking, as far as all of this stuff goes, obviously the cavalry in this particular case is the reason that they're able to go from basically nothing to completely steamrolling these guys, because as soon as the cavalry manages to get one kill, everything dies. So what I'm thinking is if we go back and we switch the leader of these particular squads to either the soldier or the knight, probably going to be the knight instead, actually, in this case, just because they're a little bit faster as well, it will give us a nice little benefit of actually reducing our rest time. So both knights and infantry, or your basic spear infantry soldiers, actually take less time to recover than your hoplites. The hoplites were primarily used because of all the range support that we were seeing, because they're able to nearly negate the effect of all that. So, like, if we go up to over here, we'll see that if we go over to these guys, so reduce wait time while resting for these guys, and it's the same for these guys. But these guys will be taking less damage from ranged assists. So either way, both of those ended up being particularly useful tools over the course of this particular fight, but now we'll go ahead and reset their squads real quick so that they can go back and take a few more easy wins. Use this right here to potentially generate a lot of extra points. So we're going to let them rest real quick, and as you can see, they can rest before the next squad even gets here, so we'll go ahead and deploy our second one here as well. Change their unit formation to have the knight as the leader. Man, this is so much easier than it was in the past. Anyway, so we'll go ahead and pop them right there just for safety's sake. Let them recover their stamina a little bit. But the reason that we're doing this is because taking those rests will put them back up to 4. They can repeatedly just take these kills, just kind of farm this stuff for free Valor points while we're waiting. We'll spend one more Cornash to make this happen. Now you might be saying, wait a minute, spending this much Cornash per fight is ridiculously unsustainable. What the hell are you doing? I agree it's ridiculously unsustainable. However, the previous expenditures up to this point have been to unlock particular things. In this case, I want to be able to unlock javelins. If we can unlock a ranged attack for our units, courtesy of those javelins, that's going to be worth the massive investment, and we get a lot of time on the clock when we're going and doing it on this particular map. Basically, the Cornash completely refills your time limit, so it allows us to get quite a bit of extra grinding time, as it were. These guys are doing pretty well, and I went ahead and had used some experience gains on them earlier, so they're very close to 9. Once they get up to 9, obviously it'll just be 1 more to 10. Every one of these fights is giving them, let's see what we're getting. Well, we're down to about +4. Not exactly ideal, but they were still actually getting pretty decent returns fighting this command squad, so I guess it's right back to that. However, we are farming Valor points this whole time. So through a combination of those Valor points, through a combination of suddenly being able to reach their back line, this actually should allow us to... actually, come to think of it, why am I doing it this way? We can still farm our Valor points, so we're going to let them steamroll this squad real quick. And then we're going to go take that tower. They're going to rest, they're going to take the tower, and then we should be golden. Free experience. These guys rest so fast. This is hilarious. I love this. By the way, one more little bit of tech that I just wanted to kind of talk about here real quick. So when it comes to things like your first aid, right? You've got cases where you can potentially tell it to prioritize, any target that's less than 100%. There's going to be cases where specifically you can actually make it so that you can win a fight on technicality based on the fact that you haven't healed somebody. So as far as average health gained or lost, this is actually something that you can use seemingly on Berserkers as well. But if you, basically, if you end up getting health back on a unit, actually not even Berserkers, probably low health units would be a lot better for this, because I think it's based off percentage, if I recall correctly. But basically, if you specifically tell it to only heal the highest health unit, and then let's say you're in a situation where you technically would have taken a loss, you switch over to suddenly healing your other unit there. Now you're basically just giving yourself free points to technically count as a win. Again, the kinds of absolute nonsense optimization that would not matter in any other circumstance, but this is why I love challenge runs. Like, it just makes you think about stupid nonsense like this. So, either way, love to see that, Additionally, let's see, if we organize here, we should be able to tell you to do your first aid towards anyone with a lowest percentage of HP. And additionally, one more thing that I couldn't help but notice, there was an odd thing where when it came to spear soldiers, I could have sworn that there were male soldiers in the same fort that I got lady soldiers this time, so I think the genders of those things might be randomized. I'm not sure. But yeah, it certainly seemed to be the case. Also, bizarrely enough, we are actually very slowly managing to whittle down this guy's health, considering how fast these guys, considering how fast the knights recover. That they're actually able to very slowly do 2 damage at a time faster than they're able to recover, so we actually will be able to pull off a win, very likely within the time limit, based on how things are going. And we're still getting lots of free level ups for doing this. But yeah, we'll see in the long run how this ends up kind of playing out. But yeah, death by 1,000 cuts, as it were. But this is also probably part of the reason the challenge runs aren't for everybody. But, well, Yeah, it's definitely less tedious than most. I have to say, there's actually been enough mechanical interaction. Part of the reason that wanted to make this video in the first place is just to get across the fact that even in a situation where things are direly tedious in stuff like this, where it is intentionally making use of just the most breadcrumb damage you can possibly achieve, this is still very engaging on a mechanical perspective because we're specifically trying to min-max out stuff that are technically wins so that we're not getting sent back into a recovery phase. We specifically swapped out for knights to be able to rest faster so that we can attack more often. Like, there's a lot of little second-to-second engagement going on with the mechanics in question. Like, we're still looking at that clock right there. Granted, Cornash has been easy enough to get a hold of that I don't think it's going to be too much of a problem. In fact, I think I realized why I never managed to recruit the Angel on my last couple of playthroughs, because I ended up not accepting, or not... I ended up bringing along the guy from the monastery, and in his particular case, if you execute him instead, his thing that you gain is a hell of a lot of those shards there. I don't think you get them otherwise, but either way. So, oh, and there we are getting trapped again. I wonder if we'll actually... Yeah, there we go. I think we figured out the perfect win here. So we found just the right angle with that push to get caught right in the corner here for just infinite 2 damage. They got nothing. They can't recover whatsoever in the in the time that it takes to do this. Oh, beautiful. This is why I love challenge running these games, you know? You always find something new. So yeah, if you aim it just right, you can get yourself in this little corner and accomplish this, except at like 100 times speed. So yeah, potentially a win. If you can ever become immortal to any unit, there's not too many leader squads that are positioned, at least in the demo anyway, nearby corners like this. And I've seen some cases where this can actually happen to you. Like there's one squad in that first archer fight that potentially, if you find yourself in a position that you are near immune to archers, but potentially they're immune to your damage or near immune to your damage as well, you can find yourself in a dang near soft lock. Actually, in that particular case, I think it literally was a soft lock. I ended up just going and resetting the fight because it would just keep triggering over and over. But it specifically was that one archer squad on the top left, and if you only have, let's say, one guy left and they get pinned right by the river, yeah. They're gonna have a bad time. Eventually, obviously, something's gonna give with the way the damage works in this game. Sometimes stuff goes up and down. Oh, there we go. There we go. We got our javelins. Now, what's that gonna end up looking like? So we do 2 damage, but let's go ahead and say this one will go ahead and prioritize a full row if possible. So prioritize their full column. Honestly, I probably should have been doing that this whole time because I think she's just been attacking the main guy there. Whereas you are going to go ahead and prioritize probably back row. Who's back there? Just infantry? I guess we'll just say back row in general. We'll see if that's enough to get the job done. No, she's still not attacking the right unit. Okay, let's go ahead and say prioritize infantry in this case. Well, what would they count as? Just general infantry? I guess he actually might also... No, he counts as armored. So why on earth... Or did they not count as anything? Because now that I look at it, they got... No, I guess they would just count as infantry. Let's go ahead and see if she's actually throwing the javelin in the right place. Because she might be using the other one as a matter of preference. Okay, that explains it. Actually, interestingly enough, this would be a really good use case for that shackle you can buy from the black market shop, because you go ahead and give that to her, she takes less damage, but she ends up getting past all of his guards. He used up his 2 guard points and ends up going to getting the javelin through. So lower priority would help out quite a bit in that case. So, potentially something to consider. But either way, 2 damage at a time. We just got the win. Doesn't matter anyway. Feels good, man. Feels good. I know that this is definitely not going to be too many folks' forte in terms of, like, congratulations, it's a 0 damage encounter. Why the hell are you excited about this? But, oh, I love this kind of stuff. Absolutely love it. If we do something like this, will that get us through? No. Let's see. Is he rocking 2 defensive points? No. Why are they... Let's go ahead and see how they're fighting. We're going to give it a couple more tries here to see what it is that's going wrong. I think what actually needs to be happening is she needs to be... Yeah, she needs to be taking her javelin off here. Go ahead and just prioritize flying for that for the moment. Okay. Will that be enough? No. What if we take that javelin off her completely and or just move it down? And we'll just go ahead and move it down this way. Leave it as its standard, and yeah, there we go. That'll be enough to start getting those double stabs through, to actually start getting some damage in. Because they can't guard both places at once now. So, definitely need to be prioritizing that more often. But see, this is what I mean. Like, we've got all these little bits of tech that we're just discovering off these pieces of equipment. We've got new map mechanics we're figuring out. We've got new trap mechanics that we're figuring out. It feels great. It feels great to just kind of get in depth with stuff, you know? When would you ever need to get this specific in a normal situation? Probably not. Obviously, we don't know how the full game's going to look. I can't imagine that you'll need to ever pull off something this scuffed in the standard experience here, where you're getting past the first guy's defense by killing off their leader 2 damage at a time, then using pierce-throughs to kill the soldier behind him so that he has no one to guard, in order to then finally deal with this guy. Man, oh man, oh man. This guy loves to talk about his food, but he's just gone ahead and and been fed breadcrumbs till he choked. Oh boy. So, okay. So here's the thing. Why is this exciting in a logistical kind of way? Because this is the other part that I haven't really covered as of yet, and that's the way that the map interacts with all of this whole situation. Because obviously, look, we've gone through some nonsense here, right? But think about it this way. The fact that we've gone through all of this stuff here, the fact that we've made it this far, and with all those hallowed corn ashes, they had to come from somewhere. So there was a lot of exploration all over the map to be able to actually accomplish wins here. So like, let's go ahead and take a quick look at the map, right? So, skip through all this, yada, yada, yada. So let's go ahead and look at the map real quick, right? So, as you can see, we've actually liberated very few areas so far. This is basically like 3 fights in, and yet it's been almost half the demo time. Because right off the bat, we actually couldn't win many of the fights. If we go to the Archer fight, they are hard countered on account of not having any way to actually deal with those outside of that spear. We couldn't afford the spear as of yet, so... You know, after getting enough items to be able to pull off other things. So we'll be circling back to the spear fight in a little bit here. Actually, no, we did end up... I think... Did we end up going back to that one? I think so. Yeah, actually, we did end up doing the spear thing already. Okay, so... We had to be able to go afford the spear to be able to get past this fight, right? Then, with that spear, we were able to get access to this area as well as some ports. With access to ports, we're then gaining access to stuff like the golden egg, which granted you need the port over here for the golden egg. So we got the golden egg to have more money, to be able to afford more stuff, to be able to then go get more items to use, like whether it's your barricades or more revival items or whatever else, just kind of generally opening up our options. I ended up exploring this whole area for a bunch of corn ash. Chloe will find a bunch of corn ash laying around for some reason. The lady just knows where to find corn, I guess. But then additionally ended up skipping ahead to the angel fight over here. And then from the angel fight, this actually gave us access to recruits. Normally, you would go get that from the tricorn mission here, right? But I couldn't get past the tricorn mission as it stood because they just simply didn't have the firepower to make it through. Spears are very defensive and they're very technical, but they're not necessarily very directly strong, and that's what wanted to happen in that fight in particular. So that one wasn't happening. I tried a few different party comps, but it just wasn't really playing out. So instead, I went for the angel here and decided to go use this along with a bunch of stuff that I ended up collecting all over the place to essentially unlock the ability to get more stuff on maps. So that's why we bought a bunch of corn ash, as well as upgrading some of our firepower for the team, as well as getting a higher guard rate through these Templar spears. So this gives us access to that, and additionally, we could have gone another way by going for lapis pendants at that point, or maybe going for guard rate increases, which are surprisingly cheap, or maybe even just going for stuff like shields, these Templar shields and things like that are really good for our situation in particular, because we're taking very small heals from our soldiers. But using something like this, it increases it by 20%. That could matter quite a bit. Or if we're running into casters, we'll probably want to get a Charm of Warding down the road to be able to get a barrier. So negate the next magic damage dealt to an ally. So this could potentially be very useful, replacing that first aid on a soldier or something like that, because we'll probably still want the guard on those hoplites. But you see what I'm getting at here? Like, there's just layers on layers on layers on layers on layers, and there's a ton of stuff to interact with here. So this has me extraordinarily excited in terms of the kinds of stuff that we'll see. Additionally, we also have stuff like this. We're probably replacing. I'm trying to think if we have any that will be able to use standard shield so far. I don't think so, but we actually just got that one shield there, which will help us out quite a decent bit. So if we go over to Hodrick over here, he's been using this Recruit Great Shield so far to get him a little bit ahead here. But swapping out for something like this will give him additional PP, which will give just better defense overall to this party. We can probably swap out this Golden Egg for something like this Leaf Brooch, which will then allow for healing 10% every time that they're using one of their actions. So that could potentially also further improve the kind of ridiculous survivability of this squad. We can now go ahead and transfer this Recruit Shield over to this guy so that he's gaining more experience as he's doing all this stuff. Potentially we might have some extra spears laying around, like we can probably sacrifice that recruit spear at this point to go get him this stronger spear, so that we get, just better numbers overall coming out of this guy. But still, like, it's just thinking and maximizing all this stuff. Normally you see a few mechanics handled well, you see a few little bits and pieces handled well. When's the last time you saw that a game managed to actually go and make all of its systems this engaging? Like, there's a lot going on. There's just stuff to think about all over the place. Like, literally, I was going to the swamp just for that one shield upgrade. This is like a weird comparison, but this is basically like RuneScape kind of thinking. Whenever you see people doing Iron Man runs of that game, you see situations where they're like, here's this one like quest over here that nobody interacts with ever, and this one oddly specific shield. Like, I was watching this one guy that was doing a challenge run of that one recently, where they basically just instantly die and have their account deleted if they ever take a single point of damage. And there's this one basically kind of laughable newbie shield that's just hanging out with surprisingly difficult requirements in the middle of an island where basically everything can kill you. And just the weirdly specific bonuses off that one shield ended up going and changing the entire kind of economy of their whole situation there. And that's the kinds of stuff that I'm seeing here in a standard situation. But can you imagine challenge runs in this game with so many oddly specific things littered about all over the place? This is just the intro. This is just the intro, and we're seeing this much stuff to interact with. So, anyway, again, was it any secret that I was already excited about this thing? God, no. But, oh, man, it's good. It's good. You'll love to see it. Also, these guys are sold out of basically everything. I guess we'll deliver some herbs here. Will that give us anything other than money or honors? Probably not. Not going to restock their shop at any rate. I'll probably get more of that stuff later. Any more oddly specific stuff that you want to sell here? Like, maybe berets might help us out later, but we'll get some of those for free. Eye patches, maybe, because those crit rates are great. However, evasion is the good stuff. Probably just get a little bit of evasion going here. Probably guard rate. We already have you know what? We can never have enough guard rate on a team like this. This is so hyper defensive, it's not even funny. And if you're wondering why specifically spears, every game that I've ever done that had spears in it, I just always got excited to do a spear-only challenge. It always leads to something interesting. Just spears always lead to something interesting. I don't know why, but they just do. It's just a matter of fact. But anyways, with all of that other side questing out of the way, we can now probably go back and handle the tricorns here to clear this area out for a few more rewards as well. I don't know what we get for this one in particular. But either way, we should be preposterously overpowered for this particular section now. Um, and obviously, we're not going to have a whole lot of time left in the demo because these few fights that were there took a really long time. But just the logistics of figuring out where these items were, of going and getting all of them kind of found, figured out, maximize their usefulness and whatever else. Oh, it's so satisfying. I forget if I mentioned this earlier. The reason that I actually couldn't do this fight before was due to the fact that I just didn't have the numbers to actually go pull it off. That I would come here and then they would end up overwhelming just by the sheer number of units that they had, and also I actually need to get these guys swapped out. So they need to withdraw and they need their other commander here. So we need not this, we need this, ideally. Because as long as they're a hoplite squad, that will allow us to deal with all of the range support that they've got down here on the bottom. It's going to generally give us a bit better of a time there. But yeah, I'll go ahead and go this way. And this, like, just the fact that you're coming back overpowered is oftentimes not even enough by itself. Like, I love to see how potentially we're seeing this interesting economy that, yeah, sure, their numbers might be dramatically better and whatnot, but still, if they're countered, they are still countered. And this is once again something that I saw, that I praised Tactics Ogre Reborn for. But seeing those counters count far more than just grinding in the long run. Your equipment matters, the stuff that you learn matters, your game knowledge matters, but it's like the grinding by itself is not enough to steamroll the game. That if you're using effective counters and effective positioning and just kind of thinking about what you're doing rather than just cranking the numbers, as it were. I love that. I love that so much here. Like, yes, we'll get a few things, talking about those classes that we're not going to use. I thought about including archers, because technically, a bow is just a thrown spear, but there are throwing spears, so it doesn't get to count. Anyway, okay, back to it. So, just thinking about all these counters is really good. Like, thinking about the weaknesses of these classes here feels really nice. Actually, I'm going to quickly have these guys go pick up this item in case it's anything potentially useful and kind of have them go rest in the woods. So one of the things that's also cool to consider is these little map interactions. Like, I need these guys to rest. They're going to take a quick rest, but there's a pretty decent chance that a squad's going to get sent after them and completely steamroll them if they're not hidden. So they go hide in the woods. They go take a nap over there. Again, when does this ever come up? You always see some variety of stealth mechanics in these kinds of games, but they're never fully explored to this degree. Like, when do you ever truly need to, for any challenge run or whatever else, hide your people in the woods? It matters. I know it's a weird thing to get excited about, but dang it, I love it. Anyway, so I should probably wrap this up. This has gone way too long. Nobody ever watches the long ones. But, oh well. I'm excited, dang it. It's almost like I like this game or something. I probably should have sent the other squad out here that actually had access to javelins to go deal with that, but we'll see. We'll get our stamina back for this squad as soon as they're done steamrolling these guys, and then they can march on in the other direction. Actually, the little strut that they do when you have hoplites in charge reminds me of that Dr. Something dance. I forget what it was called. It was like the whatever the hell that meme was from apparently some terrible cartoon absolutely ages ago. But I know I was introduced to it from somebody redoing all of Metal Gear Solid 1 through that particular joke. Okay, let's see if we can reorganize here a little bit to deal with their sweepage, because if we do something like this, yeah, that should be enough. The reason that helps, Griffins attack in an arc in front of them, which means that having the two squishier units off by themselves, just kind of away in different rows, would be enough to make a win happen. Yeah, we'll take our free heals, take these guys down. Good to see our relatively rookie squad actually able to take on one of their harder squads here. And we've captured that town over there. I'm thinking we probably have Hodrick's team handle the rest here. But again, I probably should wrap this up here. Which it occurs to me that this is the second time I've gotten halfway through this fight and wrapped up a video here. I guess this is just the end town. This is just where videos go to end. Okay. Yes, Bruno is vicious, good to know, and at which point he decided to give us nuts. Y'all are nuts, have some nuts. Fantastic. Anyway, They don't take any damage from range supports, so we'll make that happen. We'll probably spend a point to go swap those guys out to their hoplite commander, maybe. Though currently the speed of their cavalry is going to help quite a bit more, and I love that all of this is getting taken into consideration. I love that these are all actually mechanics to care about. I love that none of this stuff is throwaways. That that we're effectively taking wins just on account of decent comps and things over there. Because this squad was basically level 1 at the start of that previous fight. We literally only took the Angel fight to be able to unlock generics and then use those generics at level 1, going straight into a fight 4 times their level, and it still was just fine. And they came out of it smelling like roses and going back to curbs on previous fights. I love it when the levels don't matter. Okay, fine. I'll shut up about ending the video and actually end the video. Thank you for stopping by. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.